Hey, this is Notser, and this is a look at the early tier German battleships. At tier 3, we've got the Nassau, 283mm. Oh, say it ain't so. Small caliber for tier 3, even battleships. We've got the weird port starboard layout for the turrets, so you can't use about 20 or 30% of it. The Germans love to up armor the waterline for the bow and the stern, so aim a little bit higher than you would normally. You'll do just fine. It's a low armor zone, so HE, AP. HE won't shatter. If you aim high, AP will overmatch. Now, there are a couple of universal truths beyond the Nassau for the German battleships. Citadel protection. Absolutely fantastic short to medium range because of the turtleback. They've got armor that's in the shape of a turtle's back around their citadel. Makes it extremely hard to penetrate. Not impossible. Extremely hard. If you get a large enough caliber and you're able to place a shell at that seam line between the main gun, right on the main gun, and the extra armor that starts propping up at the perfect broadside, the largest, widest side where usually torpedo protection would be, you can sometimes sneak it in there, but it's not reliable. That's just one of the quirks of the Germans. Also, HE gets 1/4 of the gun caliber versus 1/6. To calculate its ability to do damage to the section of the ship. Now, this is not really important for battleships because, quite frankly, they always use AP. I just thought you should know. At the premium tier 3, we've got the Konig Albert and 305. Thank you. It's also white, so it's pretty attractive. It's got a royal crest or something on the front. The armor is pretty much the same. High armor at the waterline. Fire at the top of the bow and the top of the stern. APHE will have no problems doing damage at those sections. However, if you dip it low, you're just not going to get through your average equal tier ship. If you've got a special case, obviously if you're like a Butsu and you're rocking 410s, you probably could get it, but that would be stupid because it would be some sort of division mistake where you bring in your Konig Albert. Usually the highest caliber he'll face is 357, I believe. And, yeah, just play it reasonable and you'll be fine. As the Konig Albert, you do have the ability to use all guns. Now, one of the guns will probably require a perfect broadside, either port or starboard. It doesn't matter. It's sort of like playing the American battleships. You ever play the American battleships? They have the same quirk. You just can't fire them all. And it's not worth it to angle to allow the enemy to do more damage if you're perfectly broadside. Now, my builds so far have been pretty straightforward. Go for a secondary build. The one thing I would highly recommend you do, don't pick up manual secondary until you get to, I think, tier 7 to cross that threshold. Pick up concealment. The reason, and obviously this is a low tier, how are we going to have this Notser? Well, if you do. The reason is you don't gain a lot of accuracy from manual secondary. At tier 4, we've got the Kaiser 305. The port and starboard have a weird layout. However, in a perfect broadside scenario, you can indeed use it. I wouldn't recommend that. The waterline is, of course, high armor, so aim a little bit high on the bow and the stern. You won't have any problem trying to do AP penetration or HE. It has somewhat superstructure, but, pretty average. But yeah, don't think about bringing manual secondary down here. There's just no reason to do it. And some people would say, well, I don't really like your build. That's okay. The thing that the Germans are so great at, and this is why I think the German line is probably the best overall battleship line, you can really tailor it to whatever playstyle you enjoy. Do you prefer accuracy? Okay, well, we'll pick up some accuracy modules. Do you want to have fire protection? Yeah, sure, let's do it. Concealment, completely valid. Secondary? Oh, absolutely, let's do it. So this really sits in the center of it all. But for me, I've got every battleship line, every battleship. I like to tailor it to its strengths, and I enjoy a couple secondary games here and there, and the Germans are the best in the business. Now, you might notice something is kind of up with the German guns as I'm firing them. They are very inaccurate compared to other battleship guns. And that's a trait. They have a faster rearm, faster turret traverse. You just have to deal with less accuracy on your guns. Is it terrible? No. You just have to understand that even if you aim perfectly, and I do mean perfectly, at the waterline, you might miss, or you might not. And the Kaiser is pretty good if it works out. At Tier 5, we've got the Konig. Now the Konig, again, 305, basically looks like the Kaiser, right? The only thing they've done is adjusted the turret location. The middle turret exists now. There's no, like, port starboard. You can pretty much use every turret exactly as it's supposed to be. Again, armor, aim high at the bow and the stern for AP and HE, and you will do full damage, either not shatter or AP go into the ship. We get access to the secondary battery module, so 20% more range on the secondaries. You can start seeing it go way out there. But again, it's always valid to try different builds with the Germans, especially the Germans. There's not really a perfect build. They're all very much tailored to your playstyle. And again, that's why the Germans are great. So the Konig, it's got a little bit more superstructure. You got to be aware of that. The Germans start feeling like their superstructure goes forever. And that's the weakness of it. Since the Citadel is so protected, HE and fire is more effective on average against German battleships. Just because you can hit it more often. It's not like, oh, it does more damage. It's just there's a bigger target to hit. And again, since we are not Tier 7, don't pick up manual secondary. Get concealment. Get vigilance. We don't have access to hydro yet. Gosh, if we had hydro at Tier 5, oh gosh, good luck hitting the torpedoes. Speaking of torpedoes, the torpedo protection for the Germans is not as impressive as the other two lines. So keep in mind, you really need to be proactive with detecting aircraft hydro vigilance to avoid the full damage. At Tier 6, we have the Bayern. Finally, we get a new gun caliber. 380. 305 was way too small for way too long. 380 is very impressive at Tier 6, though. The Bayern is a fantastic ship. Again, the bow and the stern, high armor zones at the waterline, aim a little bit higher. We do see the armor go up, though. This is about 25 or so. Yes, 25 millimeters. Now, that gun caliber is very important. It means that any battleship that has 357 or smaller cannot overmatch your bow. However, you're probably going to find calibers that are larger than that on average at this tier and the tiers that you fight above you, so just be careful. But the Bayern is a great ship. Again, I really love a secondary build. Again, you don't have access to an aircraft or hydroacoustic, so consider getting vigilance to protect you from the torpedo systems. When hydro does come online, and we'll talk about that tomorrow, I pick up superintendent. They're basically the same skill. Some people are like, oh, well, no. Yes. I have plenty of time to react. I don't need to double up on that sort of detection. That's the way I view it. I'm also curious to see how the Bayern performs in the rank season. It's going to be Tier 6. We've never had a Tier 6, competitive all the way to rank 1. We'll see how it works out. On the whole, though, the German battleships are just a pleasure to play. Very much a aggressive style brawling battleship line, and we need more of those bad, don't we? It seems like every patch people get more and more passive. As far as German battleships early tier, really fun to play. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you have a fantastic day, and I'll catch you next time.